Today, we have a lot to do in this 300ZX. We left off in the last video with going on the very first test drive. It was very short because there's no coolant in the system. And I also didn't hook up the alternator because I thought that the alternator ran off of the water pump pulley. And for some reason, I thought the water pump pulley was on the same belt as the alternator. Well, that's not true. The water pump actually shares a belt with the power steering. Now, that's kind of unfortunate because we don't have power steering at the moment. And I haven't even made the lines for the power steering. So in order to really drive this car reliably, I need to figure out the power steering situation as well. Which brings us to another point, is there's also no exhaust. So hopefully we'll have time to fab up at least somewhat of an exhaust, and then of course install the radiator. We did already test fit this radiator and it fits nicely, but we're gonna have to figure something out with this air intake tube as well. Lots of stuff going on. I actually dug through the entire car trying to find a different water pump pulley, but then after I looked it up, I realized that this was the correct pulley all along. Since we're going to need the power steering hooked up to run the water pump, that's going to be my priority right now. There's a couple main parts to a power steering system. Got the pump, reservoir, pressure line, rack and pinion. I'm going to start with just mounting the power steering onto the engine. I would ideally like to put the reservoir pretty close to the pump. On the Z's, they're supposed to go on the opposite side because the pump is on this side of the engine bay. But if I do that, I will most likely have to relocate this fuse box, which looks really fun. We might be going down a rabbit hole, but we'll see how this turns out. I will say I'm very happy I put all of the bolts back where they go for the power steering, because these bolts are very specific. They have this little chamfer on them. Kind of see the little bump on it? That helps center the bracket onto the engine. All right, we have the power steering pump mounted to the KA. Then I also went ahead and installed the pressure line from the 300ZX engine, actually. So with this being a Z pressure line, that's why it comes out on this side, because that's where the power steering pump is supposed to be. But unfortunately, I don't have a KA line here with me. So I'm gonna see if I can make this work for now. It looks like this fitting might actually work on there. I'm just gonna have to make sure I have enough clearance between everything. Most importantly, the harmonic balancer and the fan that I'm worried about. This is pretty crazy. I fully bolted on the power steering line from the 300ZX. I looped it around this way to the KA pump, fits nicely. And I also bent down this tab so I can temporarily install this power steering pump here, which I feel like that is actually going to clear the hood. This is not a forever thing, but we're just going to have to run it like this for now. I do have a 240 reservoir that I would probably prefer using because the mounts are on the correct side. But this is the stock 300ZX hose that goes from the power steering reservoir to the pump. And I wanted to show you how this lines up. There it is on the bottom there. See how that lines up? It perfectly lines up here. It's like it was meant to be. So now that we have that hose figured out, we need to now somehow get this hose connected to here. Now there's no power steering cooler in the system yet, which is not really ideal for long-term use, but we're just trying to get this thing running and driving so I can drive it to my house and put all my other stuff on it. Now we have to figure out the return side. So the first thing we need to do is hook up this return port. This goes directly to the rack, goes under the motor mount, and comes out about here. So we're gonna have to connect this port down to there. Honestly, a straight hose will probably do. I will say it's a pretty good thing I left the fitting and the crush washers still in the rack, so I know exactly where the parts are that I need. Well, it looks like this is all of the hose that I have to use for this return line. So I think when we go to the store to pick up the power steering belt, we'll get some more hose. But meanwhile, I can hook up the alternator belt. It seems that it rains more than half of the times I work on this car. What is it about this car that makes it want to rain? And I don't have a garage to put it in, so it has to be outside. It's alright, we're gonna work through it as much as we can. The belt is good. And now the rain is really starting to pick up. Finally got the belt, just slap her on. Now before I tension this belt, I have to put on the fan. The clutch fan is what bolts in that water pump pulley. So without it bolted in, it's not going to tension correctly. And we already test fitted that this will clear the radiator. Fan is tight, but now we got to tension the belt because it is so loose. So you basically just spin this adjustment, righty-tighty, You want to do that so you can turn the belt just about quarter turn. So that's like way too loose. And when you're checking tension, you want to take the longest run. So basically this is the shortest run because pulley to pulley is the closest. The power steering to the harmonic balancer is the longest run. And there we go. That's perfect. Sometimes the manual will even tell you how much deflection it can take, which basically means how far you can push down on the belt to determine the tightness. But we got it pretty dialed in, so on to the next step. Let's install the power steering return hose, which on most cars, most 90s Japanese cars, the return hose acts as the cooler, and they basically just wrap it around everywhere. Without a cooler, they just use the hose as the cooler. So hopefully 3 feet is enough. Right now Nate is working on looping the coolant hoses in the back, the heater core lines. And I am starting to solder our wires together to get the KA running onto the VG harness. And I also placed heat shrink on all of the wires we will not be using at this moment. I'm not cutting them or eliminating them completely because I don't know if I'm going to need those down the line to run AC or anything like that. You never know. So, all right, we have our harness done for now. The next step is honestly putting in the radiator. Hello, hello. We got a little friend with us here. You gonna help us install this? Well, I ordered lower radiator grommets, but unfortunately they did not show up in time. So we're gonna steal some off of this EG, hopefully. Should we try it? Yeah. Alright, well, this thing is crusty. Sick. It's so crusty, but you know, hopefully it'll do the job. Probably easier to put these on first. Although they don't really fit in there snug, so maybe I will have to throw them on the bottom. Well, they fit in here pretty good. Right? It's like the exact size. Probably gotta take this hose off first, right? Oh, it's crusty. Gotta clean that up. Pro tip, before installing your radiator, make sure all of the fittings are tight. Oh, that one was loose. Grommets. As for the radiator hoses, we have 300ZX lower and 240SX upper. We might have to trim this back a little bit, but I think that's going to work perfectly. And this 300ZX hose is also going to work perfectly because this is where we need to connect to off the engine, and then obviously the opposite side of the radiator, which is perfect. Lower hose is fully secured. Now we need to start working on the upper hose. So this is how it is going to look mounted to the engine, and then we have this much overlap. So I'm going to trim it back right around here. Next is filling up the coolant and then finding out how I'm gonna mount this air box. I don't think this is gonna fit. It's supposed to go like right around here. Ideally, I'd like to somehow turn this coupler down into this hole to utilize the stock routing, but I don't know, we'll see what we can come up with. Oh, I ended up having to take off one of the radiator mounts to even fit this air box, and there's not a chance the hood is gonna close. So we're definitely gonna have to figure something out down the line, but I think we can actually get this thing running and just verify that there's no coolant leaks. Now we're using concentrate coolant, which means we have to use distilled water, 50-50 mix. Get that nice and topped off. And these radiators don't come with caps, which I think is ridiculous, so hopefully the cap fits on the work truck. Skunk 2 cap. It works. Oh, we gotta turn it the other way. Gotta let everyone know that we got a Skunk 2 cap on here. Honda, baby. Guess this is the overflow. How do you route this thing? Right in front of the fan?
I think it usually goes under the mount.
Oh, under this mount, I see. Well, I guess it's ready for a test start. Yeah, so we may or may not have forgot to put power steering fluid in it. Oh my God. Don't judge my pour, I'm too excited. Power steering. Oh, more fluid? Oh yeah, it was empty almost. Yeah. Well, last night we weren't able to close the hood because of the intake situation. So today we're gonna retry that. And I have the work truck here loaded up with some parts. These are actually intercooler pipes off of my brother's Skyline and also random turbo kits that he's had. Hopefully we can make something work out of this. And I brought my welder, grinder, and drill this time in case we need to make anything custom. All right, here's what I came up with. So going off the throttle body, the starting point, we have the 240SX intake coupler. We have a Skyline 90-degree bend. We have an aftermarket 90-degree bend coupler. We have the stock Z32 crazy intake pipe that goes under the headlight to here. It does have these two open ports that I'm gonna have to close up. Another coupler, and then the 240 MAF. So I guess technically now it's a cold air intake since it's outside the engine bay. So thankfully I'm able to use the first coupler because I can utilize that fitting for the valve cover breather. But then I'm gonna have to figure out where I'm gonna put this hose. This is actually the idle air control valve. So without it, the car is not gonna idle. If anything, I can extend this over to here or something and weld a little port. But I need to take all of this apart so I can actually put clamps on everything because there's not even clamps down there. And then try and weld up a port for this. So I'm starting to look through the scrap bin we have here. This is a cut up turbo manifold and a flex plate. And I came across these two. Now these two are actually exhaust hangers off of a muffler or something that we've chopped off. This actually looks like it'll fit into the idle air control valve hose. Oh my gosh, that's actually gonna work. Yeah, look at that. I don't know if this is jank or just pure ingenuity, but we're gonna use an exhaust hanger as an intake port. And luckily this pipe is steel, so I can weld this to it. If it was aluminum, I would not because I don't have a TIG welder. I only have MIG. That's insane. All right, we're gonna make something work here. Maybe we can put it on the bottom. That way we can kind of tuck this hose down to match it. Okay, okay. We got our two pipes welded up, welded on some plates to this Z intake, and then we got the Skyline angled piece with the exhaust hanger. Why does that actually look legit though? That could be factory. Who knows? Now we just gotta throw it on the car, make sure everything fits. So far so good with all of our clamps here, but now for the moment of truth. Will our idle air control valve hose actually work? Oh yeah, there we go. It's going on. I mean, it'll even work just like that, but I'm gonna put it on a little bit more. Our MAF is also looking pretty good here. I do still need to order an intake filter for it. This pipe is actually mounted to the body itself, so it's not gonna be wobbling around on us. I need to make sure that the MAF connector is long enough on the harness to reach here. I may have to split this harness open because I know the coil runs very close to the MAF. So I've cut off all the tape that was holding this harness together. I re-taped up this side, and now I'm taping the MAF side back together. And this is kind of how they do it from the factory. They basically just roll the electrical tape around it, going all the way up. Makes it look really nice though, because you don't really want to have exposed wires. That does not look nice. All right, let's see if it was long enough. I'll fish it through here, up and around here. Yo, perfect. All right, now we need to route this. This bunch of wires is supposed to go on top of the air intake tube, which we clearly don't have. Or I guess it goes under it technically on the fan shroud, which we also don't have installed yet. So we're gonna try and route this somewhere over here, maybe along this harness. Maybe I'll just tape it there. We really don't want this to hit the fan. That would not be good. Well, now we should probably start this thing up and make sure there are not any leaks within any of these welds that we made, because sometimes with MIG welding there's little pinholes, so we're going to verify that. And we also never checked if the alternator works, so we got to check that as well. Dang it, I let this thing sit too long. Too bad I didn't bring my hump-out jump back. Alrighty.
Ready?
See if a RSX Type S is enough to jump start a KA24de. There we go, we got it. Guess I can take it around the block now, like actually, although it is kind of loud without the exhaust attached. But I do want to put the front end on first. Can't be that ratchet. We need at least a complete car if it's that loud. Last but not least, our Skunk 2 radiator cap. All right.
Sounds really good.
Ooh, here we go. This is like an official test drive. Actually, steering wheel's a little crooked though. But dude, stock suspension, stock tires, this thing is like a Cadillac. Oh my gosh, this is definitely my nicest riding car. Shift's good, although I don't have a shifter. It's so loud.
Honestly, I didn't hear you when you were all the way over there. Yeah.
It's running so good. I gotta actually pop the hood for once. It's still there.
That's a good one.
We're gonna let Nate drive it. I mean, we might as well, right? We built it at his house.
Might as well.
Right back up. Power steering, yeah. Dude, it's a little smoky, a little oil coming out of it, but you know what KA doesn't burn some oil? That's so sick. I made that. Basically out of scrap. The 300ZX was a part out car that I bought off a guy. It was like halfway parted out. The KA I got out of a junkyard car. The transmission I got out of a junkyard Z car. And everything else I just kind of found and pieced together. I mean, you guys just saw, I literally made an intake port out of an exhaust hanger. Just absolutely wild. Just quit worrying about what people have to say about you and just go have fun. Because they're probably not having fun if they're hating on you. What'd you think?
Dude, this thing is really smooth.
Right? It's so smooth. It's like a Cadillac.
Yeah, the clutch though, that thing's really aggressive. It feels pretty good though.
Yeah, clutch is a little aggressive. thank you guys for sticking around for another Z video. I'm so hyped that this car is running and driving. I'll give you a little sneak peek as to what is coming next. We gotta figure this out. Don't forget to drop a like in the video, subscribe to see more, and what do you guys think? Should I use the stock exhaust or the aftermarket exhaust? Let me know. See you guys next time. Peace.